say that there will be hell to pay if the hostages are not released before January 20th. What does that mean?
Well, they're going to have to determine what that means. But it means it won't be pleasant.
Mr. President,
it's not going to be pleasant, yeah?
The president-elect held a press conference to let everyone know just how much of a warmonger he actually is, as long as the targets are innocent Palestinian civilians. You won't be surprised that he's openly willing to be a warmongering puppet of two bloodthirsty leaders.
Well, I'm not going to comment on the Putin question, but I will comment on Bibi. We had a very good talk. We discussed what is going to happen, and I'll be very available on January 20th, and we'll see. As you know, I gave warning that if these hostages aren't back home by that date, all hell's going to break out, and very strong.
He was asked if he had spoken to Putin and what his conversation with Netanyahu was about. And oddly, he didn't want to answer about his potential conversations with the Russian leader, who treated him like his loyal servant in front of the world in Helsinki.
I have President Putin. He just said it's not Russia. I will say this, I don't see any reason why it would be. So I have great confidence in my intelligence people, but I will tell you that President Putin was extremely strong and powerful.
But he's comfortable being available for Netanyahu in the same way, despite his constant reminders to himself that he's very strong.
Many more people are being killed in the Ukraine war with Russia than is being reported, and that includes soldiers. The soldiers are being, it's a carnage that we haven't seen since the Second World War. It's got to be stopped, and I'm doing my best to stop it.
Ukraine should cede territory to Russia.
Well, I'm going to let you know that after I have my first meeting, but a lot of that territory, when you look at what's happened to those, I mean, there are cities that there's not a building standing. It's a demolition site. There's not a building standing. So people can't go back to those cities. There's nothing there. It's just rubble. Just like when I knocked down a building in Manhattan, which is actually, this is worse, actually, because we do it step by step. This thing has just got demolished. And by the way, in those buildings are many people. Many people were in those buildings.
Really, what is there to say about this display of fealty and incompetence anymore? You know, first he called the Russian invasion of Ukraine Ukraine's war with Russia, as if Vladimir Putin was attacked. But he made sure to let us know that buildings have been decimated with people inside, still not admitting that his adopted father Vladimir is responsible for that carnage, which of course reminds him of demolitions for real estate purposes, but not of the tens of thousands of people inside the buildings that his other father, Netanyahu, has turned into rubble with our bombs. If you thought he didn't give a damn about anyone's life before, he's making sure you know it's even worse now. Unless it's a rich, elitist CEO that endorsed Americans' pain and suffering for cash.
The United Healthcare shooting, the shooting of the CEO. In your, can you give us your thoughts about that? And what do you make of the reaction around the suspected shooter? Does that tell you anything about how people
I think it's a terrible thing. I think it's really terrible that some people seem to admire him, like him. And I was happy to see that it wasn't specific to this gentleman that was killed. It's just an overall sickness as opposed to a specific sickness. That was a terrible thing. It was cold-blooded, just a cold-blooded, horrible killing. And how people can like this guy is, that's a sickness, actually. That's really very bad, especially the way it was done. It was so bad, right in the back. And very bad, thing like that, you can't believe that some people, and maybe it's fake news. I don't know. It's hard to believe that that can even be thought of. But it seems that there's a certain appetite for him.
So are the MAGA supporters that celebrated the murder of Brian Thompson, the ones that voiced their anger over the predatory practices of the health insurance industry, are they rethinking their support for this president that's clearly stating that he's in favor of it? Are these MAGA supporters a part of the sickness that their president is calling them? He doesn't give a damn. He's not focused on them. He's focused on polls that he thinks wronged him.
I'm doing this because I feel I have an obligation to. I'm going to be bringing one against the people in Iowa, their newspaper, which had a very, very good pollster who got me right all the time. And then just before the election, she said I was going to lose by 3 or 4 points, and it became the biggest story all over the world because I was going to win Iowa by 20 points. The farmers loved me, and I loved the farmers. And it was interesting the way she did it. She brought it down 2 weeks before. She said I was going to only win by 4. That was a big story. But that was good because she brought it down from like 22 points to 4 or whatever the number was. Way up, an easy win. We never even thought to go there. I respect them, I love them, and they understand there's no reason to go there because she brought it from way up, walk away, which it was, and it turned out to be in the election too, by the way. It was a win by many, many points. And then she brought it down very smartly to 4 a couple of weeks before. And everyone said, wow, that's amazing. He's only up by 4 points. Then she brought it down to where it was down by 3 or 4, whatever number she used. And that was the Des Moines Register. And it was their parent. And in my opinion, it was fraud and it was election interference.
Maybe if Vladimir Putin ran a poll claiming Trump was losing, he'd suddenly have the guts to stand up to him. You know, this guy won the election and can't get his mind off of what he called election interference. He just wants retribution for a pollster in Des Moines, Iowa that didn't come up with accurate numbers. And weak people from both major parties have floated this idea of Biden pardoning him as some act of unity. I get the feeling that they won't request any unity from the guy complaining about old polls from an election he won.
I want to expand on the defamation lawsuits. Could you see moving that to other people with individual platforms, social media influencers, people that...
Or newspapers, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I do. I think you have to do it because they're very dishonest. We need a great media. We need a fair media. We need, it's very important. And we need borders. We need walls, but we need borders. And we need fair elections.
He's still pushing the narrative that we don't have fair elections. So was this election not fair? All that inaccurate poll cost him was some opportunities to gloat and feed his ego during the campaign, which he's obviously interested in doing now, but with anger and revenge in mind. But death, destruction, and retaliation can't come without his buddy Pete Hegseth running the Defense Department.
And you know, Pete Hegseth gave up a lot because he was going big places in Fox, big places, a lot of money. And he didn't even hesitate. When I said, do you want to do this? He said, absolutely. I said, you know, if it doesn't work out, you'll never have the opportunity that you have right now in terms of the world of entertainment or business, whatever you want to call it. You'll never have that opportunity again. In fact, it could be just the opposite because it's nasty out there. He said, I don't care. I have to do it for my country. He gave up a tremendous amount. If this didn't work, it would be a tragedy. Because, but that's what he loves. He loves the military. I never talked to him about anything else. He'd talk about the military.
So now senators are supposed to care that Trump thinks Pete Hegseth's TV career could be over if he's not confirmed as the defense secretary. You know, it's this kind of perspective that really shows how little he cares about the qualifications and temperament, how necessary it is to be in that role. They shouldn't be concerned with the fact that Pete Hegseth said that he doesn't have to answer to anyone, that he's all about lethality, or that he's been more concerned with throwing money around that's not his in search of party girls that he can get drunk with. You know, none of it matters. And he wants the Senate Republicans that have the responsibility of confirming or denying his nomination to know that he'll turn on them if they don't rubber stamp his demands.
Senators who oppose your nominees, your cabinet nominees, should they be primary?
If they are unreasonable, I'll give you a different answer, an answer that you'll be shocked to hear. If they're unreasonable, if they're opposing somebody for political reasons or stupid reasons, I would say has nothing to do with me. I would say they probably would be primaried. But if they're reasonable, fair, and really disagree with something or somebody, I could see that happening. But I do believe that if they're I think we have great people. I think we have a great group of people. Pam has been unbelievably received. You take a look, Pam Bondi. So many have been just unbelievably received. I think Pete Hegseth is making tremendous strides over the last week. He's going to be great. Look, he went to Princeton, he went to Harvard, he was a great student there, but he really was, from the first day I met him, all he wanted to talk about was military. He's just a military guy. I think it's a natural. This was my idea.